As we have seen before in the poem that is actually acting as a prelude, that the classical references are there where the three sisters, Alice and the other two sisters, are actually being presented or can be decoded as the blind sisters of fate. So in today's class we will decode why there is the use of the white rabbit and how it has been done. Clear? কি করে হচ্ছে হোয়াইট র্যাবিটটাকে ইউজ করছে বা কেনই বা হচ্ছে হোয়াইট র্যাবিটটা ইউজ করা হচ্ছে। লিউইস ক্যারলের যে স্টোরিটা অ্যালিসেস অ্যাডভেঞ্চার্স ইন Wonderland, which was previously titled Alice's Adventures Underground, it is one of the most oldest story in the world. Okay, oldest story not in the sense that this story of Alice is the oldest story, but the pro forma of fairy tale about a young girl's descent underground is the oldest story, is literally the oldest story in the world, where one would experience, especially the girl would experience several other things. Why I am telling so? It is because Carol's fairy tale is based on the Mesopotamian goddess Inna, Inna. Okay, Mesopotamian goddess Inna, who descended into the underworld, that is the realm of the dead, and it is the oldest recorded myth in world literature. Okay, and this story has been again and again retold in the Babylonian myth of Easter and the Egyptian myth of Isis. What we find here is that this kind of story has always been there, which has actually influenced, motivated Lewis Carroll to write about it in a new form. Okay, so when we look into the studies of Lewis Carroll and his lifetime, what we see that the most probable way of the most probable things that might have influenced him is that the story which is best known as that of Persephone. Okay, a character named Persephone, who is the Greek goddess of spring. Spelling is Persephone. Persephone, who is the goddess of spring, who actually descended into the underworld in order and she discovered a lot of things. Okay, so and as the Victorian literature or the Victorian age especially was very much influenced by several others art, literature, and it was a golden age, right? So in Carroll's lifetime he might have been influenced by this story. Clear? The myth of Persephone begins with an idyllic meadow with the sun in its own place, and she was in the meadow with her older sister. Okay, her older sister's name is Demeter, Demeter, who is actually the earth goddess. And what we find here is that there is this kind of similarity that we find in Alice also. Okay, Alice is also sitting there by the river bank and is also with none other than her sister, elder sister, obviously. Okay, so also what we find here is that Persephone is idly daydreaming and picking flowers. Okay, when she falls down an infinitely deep gap um, into the underworld or the subterranean world, and she experiences many adventures and trials, but at last she escapes and returns to her sister's arms. Okay, so what we find here is that there is this same story. Okay, the same frame of the story is there in Alice's adventures. Okay, in both the underground and Wonderland version, though there is this some kind of changes in both the stories. Underground is the previous version which has been reworked to form the Alice's adventures in Wonderland. Okay, so this frame or this plot of the story of Alice's adventure actually mirrors the journey of Persephone. Okay, in Alice's case, it can be said that she is sitting in an idyllic meadow with her rather older sister, Lorena, and while idly daydreaming of and considering picking up flowers, drifts into a dream. Okay, and like Persephone, she experiences many adventures and trials, as I said just now. Okay, but she finally escapes the underground and returns back to her sister Lorena. Clear? So let's come back to the question, why this use of white rabbit? Okay, what is the purpose of the white rabbit? So in the section that I said just now, that is also very important, because from the point of view of understanding the text, from where the inspiration has come from. So if you have read fairy tales or this kind of fairy tales, the fairy tale or if you have gone through this one, through this text, you will see that the fairy tale begins with little girl who is named Alice is chasing the white rabbit and falls into the rabbit hole into a mysterious wonderland beneath the surface of the earth, where everything is different. Okay, or to say quite opposite to the world that we actually live in. Okay, so why did Lewis Carroll choose a white rabbit as a guide to say into the underground or the wonderland? Okay, what we find here is that in this case also Alice, for to say Lewis Carroll, is also inspired by the classical times. Okay, so there pilgrims initiated into the mysteries of the goddess, dressed in white and wearing wreaths of flowers, as it is mentioned in the poem also, wreaths of flowers, and they entered her temple sanctuary at Eleusis, Eleusis, and as if they reenacted the descent and eventual celebrated return. Okay, so কি হতো, এই যে ক্লাসিক্যাল টাইমসে যারা পিলগ্রিমস হতো, যারা তীর্থ করতে যেত, তারা কি করতো, তারা মিস্ট্রিজ অফ দ্য গডেসের কাছে যখন যাচ্ছে তাদের পিলগ্রিমে তীর্থপথে, তারা হচ্ছে সাদা কাপড় পরে যেত আর রিডস অফ ফ্লাওয়ারের মালা যেগুলো মাথায় পড়ে সেগুলো পরতো, আর তারা হচ্ছে যে টেম্পলের যে স্যাংচুয়ারিটা, গর্ভগৃহ, ঠিক আছে, সেইখানটায় তারা যেত অ্যান্ড দে অ্যাক্টিং করতো এরকম যেন তারা হচ্ছে সেইখানটায় যাচ্ছে, অ্যান্ড দে ইউজ টু সেলিব্রেট ইট আফটার রিটার্নিং. ওকে, সো Carol is actually alluding to the ancient pilgrimage. Okay, how he is actually alluding to it in the poem itself, in the final lines. If you look at the final lines where he says that like pilgrims wreathed wreath of flowers plugged in a far off land. So far off land here refers to the temple or the pilgrimage, the final destination of the pilgrimage. And what we find here is that there is this significance where this reference could be seen in the poem itself, where he is constantly referring to it. And we have seen before also that in his writings he has mentioned, even after 2 years of after publishing, that one should not miss what he is actually trying to project. Okay, so when we look into the story of Alice's adventures in Wonderland, in this context, this white rabbit is like an initiation, or it is a clear example of initiation, what is actually known in the world mythologies, that to say as a psychopomp. Okay, in world mythologies this guide of souls is called psychopomp. Psychopomp actually means the guide of souls. Psychopomp. Okay, সাইকোপম্পস জিনিসটা কি? সাইকোপম্প জিনিসটা হচ্ছে কোনো ক্রিয়েচার বা স্পিরিট বা কোনো ডেইটি যারা হচ্ছে অ্যাকচুয়ালি নিউলি ডিসিজ সোলস যারা, তাদেরকে আন্ডারওয়ার্ল্ডে নিয়ে যায়। অ্যান্ড অ্যাট টাইমস এটা কি হয়, এটা হয় যে তারা হয় হচ্ছে সোল অফ ড্রিমার্সদেরকেও হচ্ছে অন্য জায়গায় নিয়ে যায়, যেখানটায় তারা হচ্ছে আর টু বি জাজড বাই দ্য রুলার্স অফ দ্যাট এরিয়া or the underworld or the wonderworld to say. Okay, so White Rabbit is actually acting as such a psychopomp. Okay, so what we see here is that the White Rabbit, as in world mythologies we have seen, it is acting as a psychopomp, Psychopomp, right, a psychopomp who actually guide the or escort the newly deceased souls jara notun mara geche, or the souls of the dreamers, okay, to an unknown land or to the dream world or to the underworld, what to say, where they would be judged by its rulers. ক্লিয়ার? সো যে কোনো একটা মিডিয়াম লাগে, ঠিক আছে? যেরকম if I say in Hindu custom there was a tradition or there is a tradition where you have to donate a cow to the Brahmin after any one of your close relatives, especially a parent, dies. Okay, why? It is believed that the cow will actually help you to cross, not you, help the deceased person's soul to cross the river Baitarani. Okay, so the cow actually helps, the giving of the cow actually helps the deceased person's soul to cross the river and go to heaven, okay, or reach heaven. ক্লিয়ার? সেইটা হচ্ছে আমাদের ট্র্যাডিশনেও রয়েছে, যে আমাদেরকে বলা হয় যে এই যে বৈতরণী নদী সেটা হচ্ছে আমাদের ওয়ার্ল্ড, আর হচ্ছে স্বর্গকে বা আদার ওয়ার্ল্ড যেটা সেটাকে হচ্ছে ডিভাইড করে রাখছে। ক্লিয়ার? সো আবার হচ্ছে আমাদের কাস্টম, আমাদের রিলিজিয়নের মধ্যে হচ্ছে সেটা রয়েছে, যেখানটায় তোমার এই যে এই ওয়ার্ল্ড থেকে অন্য ওয়ার্ল্ডে যেতে একজন মিডিয়ামের হেল্প লাগে। সো দিস white rabbit is acting as such. Okay. What we find here is that in a few cases Persephone actually allows, the souls are actually allowed to return to the world of the living, and in some cases they are not. When they are not, they are not allowed to return when they are actually dead. But if they are dreaming, then you will be allowed to return. Okay, when you are dreaming, you will be allowed to return. For example, famous film was there by Bhanu Bandyopadhyay, Jomaloy Jibonto Manush. I cannot actually remember who or what actually acted as a psychopomp over there. Okay, but that film in those times is actually built on this theory. Okay, so whatever, in various cultures, as I said, in various religions, in different places, psychopomps have been associated with a variety of animals. So it can be a rabbit, it can be a cat, it can be a dog, it can be a cow, or whatever. Okay, so what we see here is that Carol must have been drawing on all this kind of mythology, all this kind of readings to present this rabbit. Okay, so this so to mix the two instances what I have said just now, one, the myth of Persephone, and the psychopomp. Okay, we are clearly getting to see that Carol's choice of the rabbit is linked with the inspiration of Alice's adventure through the myth of Persephone, who is the goddess of spring. Okay, or to say her British counterpart, or the manifestation of her in the British literature, that is the goddess Auster. Auster spelling is Eostre. Okay, why I am saying so, and why I have said of Persephone before? Because as you will see in your 5th semester that British literature and language has faced several influences from different countries, from Latin influence and French influence, Greek influence. It has also been influenced by the several cultures that it has came in contact with. Okay, so this British goddess, both the goddesses, that is Persephone and Auster, were commonly portrayed in company of a rabbit. Okay, they are the symbol of spring and fecundity. Okay, so what we find here is that it is quite obvious that this person, Lewis Carroll, is focusing on this symbol of an emblematic creature who is still present this day, and which is actually helping in bringing a serene atmosphere and otherworldly atmosphere. Clear? So what we see here is that there was nothing so very remarkable in that to say that Alice think so very much why she hear a white rabbit saying such words, why a white rabbit is talking in a human voice, okay, where the rabbit says, I shall be late, oh dear, I shall be late. Okay, what we see here is that Alice think it's so very much different out of the way to hear a rabbit to say to itself. What is it actually focusing on? Okay, when she thought it over afterwards, it occurred that she have wondered, but at the time it all seemed quite natural. She is not questioning, she is not in a sense questioning the rabbit, but following it. Okay, but when the rabbit actually took out a watch out of its waist pocket and looked at it and then hurried on, what we see? Alice started to her feet, for it flashed across her mind to follow the rabbit. Okay, she had never seen a rabbit before, either with a waist pocket or a waistcoat to say, or a watch, obviously. And this curiosity that is actually running within Alice leads her to run across the hall, run across the field and follow it. And fortunately, she pops down into the rabbit hole. Why this curiosity? Or what this curiosity symbolizes? This curiosity symbolizes the curiosity of the Victorian age to discover new places, to conquer new places, to invent new things. Okay, so the Victorian spirit, that is to say, there is doubt obviously, that is present, the Victorian doubt is already present within her. But at the same time, she has this tendency of inquisitiveness to find out what it is. Though there is this lack of also the inquisitiveness. Why I am saying? Because she is not questioning the white rabbit. Okay. As you know, as I have told you in the previous class, that the rabbit hole, that is, went straight on like a tunnel for some space, and they fall, suddenly find herself stepping herself and falling in a very deep place, that is the Wonderland. What we find here is that this life that has been presented or created by Lewis Carroll is actually a presentation of the life outside. Okay, there is always a counterpart, there is always a reference, there is always a person who is already present in the real world. So like every other creature, there is this original creation, or this like all the creatures in the Wonderland has a ground above human counterpart to say. The real life Oxford white rabbit, that is to say, from which this is inspired, or on which or who is the counterpart of this person, is actually Alice Leader's family physician. ওকে, কি বলছি এখানটায়, যেটা যে প্রতিটা ক্রিয়েচার যেগুলো তৈরি করা হয়েছে, ঠিক আছে, সমস্ত ক্রিয়েচারেরই হচ্ছে কোনো না কোনো একটা হিউম্যান কাউন্টার পার্ট আছে যার উপরে এটাকে বেস করে তৈরি করা হয়েছে, ঠিক আছে। তাহলে এইখানটা যেটা ক্রিটিক্সরা খুঁজে বার করেছে, ক্রিটিক্সরা ফাউন্ড আউট দ্যাট এই যে হোয়াইট র্যাবিটের কাউন্টার পার্টকে, হোয়াইট র্যাবিটের কাউন্টার পার্ট হচ্ছে অ্যালিস লিডেলের যে ফ্যামিলি ফিজিশিয়ান, ফ্যামিলি যে ডক্টর রয়েছে সে। তার নাম কি? তার নাম হচ্ছে ডক্টর হেনলি ওয়েন্টওয়ার্থ অ্যাকল্যান্ড। ওকে, সে হচ্ছে একজন প্রফেসর অফ মেডিসিন। আর যে অ্যাটলিস্ট ওয়ান অকেশন রয়েছে যেখানটায় one occasion he has brought Alice back to life, and I am quoting this. He has brought Alice back to life. So, like the White Rabbit who was in service to the Duchess and the King and the Queen of Wonderland, Dr. Ackland, that is this Dr. Henry Wentworth Ackland, had served as physician to the royalty, that is Queen Victoria, and also to Prince Albert and Prince of Wales when he was in his tour of Canada. Okay, so we see the what can you say, the links. Okay, so the White Rabbit is the royal doctor. Okay, here, or the counterpart over here. So it is also said by the critics that like the White Rabbit, this royal doctor was often seen as checking his pocket watch before rushing into the next appointment. Okay, so what we find here is that this is a reference. Dr. Ackland was ACLAND. Okay, Dr. Ackland was frequent in climbing down into the holes in the ground on his regular inspection of drainage tunnels also. So all these informations that Lewis Carroll got, or he has this inclination of getting things, he has presented all this in a roundabout way or a humorous way into this fairy tale story. Okay, so what I see here is that this stooping down into the tunnels and everything, this is being made in order to, or this is being used by him in order to create the, or impart into the story, is another level. Okay, the human counterpart level. Clear? So this is more or less the rabbit story, though there are several others images or the stories through which we can point out. There is this reference to, there is this Midsummer Night's reference, where there is also a painting by Edwin Henley Lancer. তোদের ইউজি লেভেলের জন্য এতটা ইম্পর্টেন্ট না। তারপর হচ্ছে দ্য রসিকার্শিয়ান র্যাবিট রয়েছে, ROSICRUCIAN, রসিকার্শিয়ান র্যাবিট, যেটা হচ্ছে অ্যাকচুয়ালি হিস্টোরিক্যালি প্রিসিড করছে তোর পাবলিকেশন অফ ক্যাবালা, মিরর অফ আর্ট অ্যান্ড নেচারের। যাই হোক, অনেক কিছুই রয়েছে যেগুলো অ্যাকচুয়ালি হচ্ছে তোমার এইগুলোকে, ইলাস্ট্রেশনগুলোকে হচ্ছে হেল্প করছে। রসিকার্শিয়ান নোশনটা যেটা অল্প একটু বলে দিচ্ছি, সেটা কি, দ্য রসিকার্শিয়ান নেচার is of the secret repository of universal knowledge, was an inspiration not only for the Freemasons Brotherhood and the Royal Society of London for improving the natural knowledge, but also for the Oxford Ashmolean Institute of Museum, which was opened in 1683. Also to say, Carroll was an active member of the institute. There might be a possibility that from those or the other symbolic images in the Kabbalah, which is seen is in the Wonderland, is actually reappearing in the Wonderland. The images that are seen in Kabbalah are actually reappearing in Wonderland. Okay, what is actually a Kabbalah? Kabbalah, to say, is a kind of first time in literature, is an art form. Okay, first time in literature we see that is art, the pursuit of a rabbit down the rabbit hole, which is a major theme in a quest. It what can you say, it gives description, elaborate engravings rather to say, somewhat 250 years before Alice was going after the rabbit. This actually inspires Lewis Carroll because of his association. To pinpoint what actually inspired him is very difficult, because he was into so many things. Okay, he was into so many. He was not just a mathematician, he was not just into his own field. He is hardly people remember him as a mathematician. Okay, Charles Dodson, that's to say, is famously known by his pseudonym Lewis Carroll, right? So he has been inspired by so many things that it is very difficult to pinpoint what exactly helped him to write. For to say that everything, he has taken inspiration from everything and used it for his own purpose, according to his own needs. Okay, so also, as if you say, as in Alice in Wonderland, the Rosicrucian initiate a discovery, a secret that is underground, the great hall for the testing of the testing that to be initiated. Similarly, in Alice in Wonderland, we find that, right? So all these things, all these instances are present over here, the Kabbalah engravings, the images and everything, which actually helped Lewis Carroll to create this wonderful story. Also, বলতে গেলে তো শেষ হবে না কোনো কিছুই, শেষ হবে, অবভিয়াসলি শেষ হবে। আরও অনেক রেফারেন্স রয়েছে, যেমন ফিবোনাকিস র্যাবিট হোল বলে একটা রয়েছে, সেখানটায় একটা ম্যাথামেটিক্যাল নাম্বার, জাস্ট বলে দিচ্ছি এখানটায়। তো কখনো হচ্ছে যদি হায়ার লেভেলে হচ্ছে এটাকে নিয়ে কাজ করিস, রিসার্চ করিস, তখন সেটা কাজে লাগবে। ফিবোনাকি নাম্বারের সাথে হচ্ছে এই প্যাটার্নটা হচ্ছে রয়েছে। অনলাইন ক্লাস ছাড়া হচ্ছে যখন যদি কখনো ক্লাস হয় তখন হবে, তো অবভিয়াসলি তখন দেখিয়ে দেবো। এই সমস্ত কিছু ফিবোনাকি নাম্বার যেগুলো, সেগুলোকে হচ্ছে ইউজ করেছে। যাই হোক, almost everything that we see over here is a product of his lifelong work, is a belief that he has always been in the group of so many important people, in the group of so many important things. Everything is actually inspiring him. আরেকটা জিনিস যেটা বলার, সেটা কি, হোয়াইট র্যাবিট হচ্ছে বারবার ঘড়ি দেখে কেন? Why he actually checks the clock every time? Because the white rabbits it is actually believing that he is always a little late. Okay, why this is so? This might actually be a joke about the Oxfords that is the Oxford University and the college and everything, Oxford's insistence on keeping the Oxford time as opposed to Greenwich Mean Time. Okay, so which is actually running a bit late. Okay, so these are these instances which has been thoroughly engraved within the writings. Okay, the Tom Tower clock at Christchurch was set according to Oxford's longitudinal position. Okay, which is technically 5 minutes late than Greenwich Mean Time. Okay, so we see that this white rabbits saying that I am late. Okay, so this is actually a joke that is being presented. So the whole world will be moving around the Greenwich Mean Time or according to that, but this tower clock, that is the Tom Tower clock, is actually 5 minutes late. This made little difference until 1844, when the first railway was put through to Oxford, and suddenly Oxford time came into conflict with the accepted national standard time. Okay, so what we find here is that all these instances are present over here through this description. Next day we will discuss about the later sections of the story, and we will analyze what are we to expect, or what Alice is to expect to discover in this underworld through that rabbit hole. Okay, so let's end it here today.